Thank God to give me this opportunity to share with you.
感谢神呢，给我这次机会来跟弟兄姐妹分享今天的信息。
I'm interested in following the political news in America.
那我这个人呢，很喜欢，然后去追踪美国的这个政治新闻。
Every day is breaking news.
每一天呢都有爆炸性的新闻。
And I see the political debates getting very intense.
我最近呢，然后发现，然后就是说，政治间的，然后这个辩论，然后越来越激烈。
And there's all kinds of protests breaking out, and there's some protests actually leading to violence.
那这个世界上的各地的，然后这个各种抗议呢，也是发生的越来越多，而且一些呢也演变成了这个暴力事件。
Some of the political commentators said our country is sharply divided now.
一些政治评论员呢就说，美国现在是正在急速的分裂。
So maybe some of you watched, and my wife and I pay a lot of attention to watching TV about a nomination of a justice, Kavanaugh, on TV.
过去几周呢，我跟我太太都在关注着这个大法官卡瓦诺，然后他的这个提名过程。
Yeah, this incident showed how intense our political situation becomes.
那这个过程，这个事件呢，也是让我们看到了，然后这个美国，然后是有多么的这个辩论，然后有多么的激烈。
From what I could observe is three kind of people that in America now. Three kinds of people.
从我的角度看呢，然后就是说，在美国分3种人。
One is that I just met this lady last week. She said, "I don't watch news or go to the internet."
那有一种人呢，是我上周遇到一个女人，然后她说我不看电视，然后也不上网。
The news is too depressing.
因为这些新闻太让人压抑了。
Another kind is they just don't know what's happening in this world.
那另外一种呢，是他们就是不晓得，然后这个世界，然后在发生的什么事情。
The whole world's getting confusing.
那这个整个世界呢，都会让人觉得很困惑。
They pay attention, but they just don't know what to do.
他们呢会去注意发生什么事情，但是呢，他们不晓得怎么去做。
The third kind is people that have a strong opinion of what's going on.
那第3种人呢，是他们有他们自己的这个意见。
But what I could observe is they are on opposite end of the political spectrum.
那我从我的角度来看呢，我觉得他们是，然后这个有他们自己的这个跟这个事件，然后有很多反对的这个声音。
From what I can see, I don't see anybody in the middle of the political middle anymore.
他们呢不是说在这个站在这个政治辩论的，然后这个中间派。
We see the politics. Throughout history, it's always political conflicts.
那从这个所有这个历史上，然后我们总是能够看到政治上的，然后这个冲突和分歧矛盾。
It's always a conservative liberal theology. It's always conflict.
那保守派的政治思想和自由派的政治思想之间呢，总是有分歧。
So it's also, of course, this political party. They always conflict between different political parties.
在这个不同的政党之间，然后他们也有很多的这个冲突和矛盾。
But what a lot of people don't see is another spiritual battle going on. It's the spiritual battle.
那很多人呢都看不到，然后这是一个就是说属灵的一个东西在里面。
This is basically it's a Satan against God.
实际上在属灵里呢是撒旦，然后在对抗的神。
To understand the real reason why this conflict's getting more intense, we first must understand what God's plan is for a nation and why Satan opposed this plan.
那要想理解，然后这个为什么矛盾越来越激烈的真正原因，我们首先要去知道上帝对各个国家的计划，然后而且还有撒旦的敌对计划。
This is like looking the world from a big picture and from a higher elevation, looking down.
那这就像是从上帝从一个更高的角度去看这个整个的世界。
Yeah. Without this viewpoint, the whole world looks like a big confusion picture.
那如果没有这样的一种更高的角度去看的话，那就是很容易觉得困惑。
So as an old saying say, can't see the forest through the trees.
那有一句老话说叫见树不见林，意思就是说你如果只看细节的话，就看不到整体。
So the first thing we look at is the spiritual warfare.
那首先我们看看，然后什么是这个属灵征战。
The Satan, some of the Christians don't have a good concept of who Satan is.
那撒旦，然后很多的基督徒呢都不是特别理解，然后撒旦到底是什么。
Satan is a real entity. It's real, even though we don't see him.
尽管我们是看不见撒旦，但是实际上它是一个确确实实存在，它是一个个体。
In Ephesians 2:2, he's called the prince of the power of the air.
在以弗所书2章2节，撒旦被称为叫空中掌权者。
In John 12:31 said he's also the ruler of the world.
那在约翰福音12章31节，撒旦被称为这个世界的王。
This is not say that he rules or have a complete control of the world.
那这句话并不是说，然后撒旦是控制着这个完全掌控着这个世界。
God is still sovereign throughout the world.
那上帝神才是然后这个世界真正的掌权者。
But it means that God allows Satan to operate in this world within the boundary he set.
那但是呢，就是说神给撒旦然后设立了一些界限，在这界限之内，撒旦可以做一些事情。
Yeah. Even though Satan has power over the world, but we have to know that it's God. He only have influence on the believers, on non-believers only.
那尽管是撒旦，然后是这个世界的王，但是我们作为基督徒要知道，那上帝只给他然后权柄，就是说他可以做事情，在这个掌权在那个不信主的人身上。
Yeah. For a believer, Satan doesn't have sovereign over for the believers.
对于信主的人来说，是神在亲自掌权我们。
Ephesians, the one we just read, Ephesians 6:10-12 make it very clear that our struggle is against the ruler authority of the dark world.
那刚刚我们读的以弗所书6章10到12节，他就很清楚讲了，我们是与黑暗世界的执政掌权者在征战。
So this is a spiritual struggle. It's not a physical struggle that we can see.
那这一场属灵征战呢，并不是我们这个属肉体，然后这个肉眼能够看到的。
To overcome this spiritual battle, Ephesians also mentioned that we have to equip ourselves with the 6 armors of God.
那为了胜过这个黑暗权势，得胜这个这个属灵征战呢，我们需要穿戴神所赐的全副军装。
So in Ephesians 6:18 says, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions, with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the saints.
那在以弗所书6章14到17节，然后就告诉我们说，要靠着圣灵持续不断的祷告，然后随时多方祷告祈求，并要警醒不倦，为众圣徒祈求。
So now we want to talk about God has a plan for the nations of this world.
那我们现在然後就談論一下，然後上帝對這個世界上的各國，然後他的計劃。
So God has, as I mentioned before, God is sovereign over all nations.
剛剛我們說過了，上帝在這個所有的國家之中在掌權。
Even though Satan has influence, God has sovereign over all nations of the world. Is from beginning of the world to the end of the world.
那尽管撒旦然后在这个世界上做王，但是呢，神他是在这个世界上从起初到末后，然后他都是在掌权的。
In Daniel chapter 2:21 said, he removes kings and establishes king.
在这个但以理书2章21节，他说他废王立王。
I remember Pastor talked about King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon.
那我记得，然后之前牧师然后讲过这个
King Nebuchadnezzar.
就是讲到这个在但以理的时候讲到这巴比伦的
皇帝。
巴比伦的皇帝。
Yeah, because there's pride, God make him to be like an animal for 7 years.
因为他太骄傲了，所以上帝把他废了，并且然后把他发放到旷野之中，他就像一个动物一样在旷野之中生活了7年。
Also in Romans chapter 13 verse 1 said, there's no authority except from God, and those that exist are established by God.
那在罗马书13章1节也说，上帝说没有权柄不是出于上帝的，凡掌权的都是上帝所命的。
So even though throughout history there's a lot of bad kings and bad rulers, but God allowed them to rule.
但是尽管是说在这个历史上有很多很糟糕的皇帝，但是他们也都是神所命定。
So this is God's plan for the nations.
这是上帝然后对这个国度的然后这个计划。
So we want to go back to the historic event that show how God has sovereign over the nations.
那我们想回过头去看看过去，就是在历史上，然后神对各个国家的然后这个计划。
So the first event is that God established the nations. It's at the Tower of Babel that is recorded in Genesis chapter 11.
在创世纪11章1到11节，那上帝就介绍了这个上帝建立国度的事件，就是巴别塔事件。
After the flood, there's only 8 persons left in the world. It's Noah and his sons and the family.
那个洪水过后呢，这个世界上只剩下了8个人，挪亚和他的3个儿子，还有他们的妻子。
So, and they start multiplying on the earth.
神命令挪亚呢，在生养众多，遍满地面。
God's command is to Noah is to be fruitful and multiply and fill this whole earth.
他对挪亚的命令呢，是要生养众多，遍满地面。
So population start multiplying, but instead of filling the earth, they gathered together in a place called Shinar, which is modern day Babylon.
人们呢开始生养众多呢，但是却没有遍满地面，而是聚集在一处叫示拿的平原，也就是现在的巴比伦地区。
Babylon's actually a real city. Actually, is in the nation of Iraq right now.
是现在的这个伊拉克。
So these people built a city and built a tower to. The idea is to reach out to heaven.
他们建了一座城，并且呢计划将这座城呢可以建成一座可以通天的塔。
So this is an artist's conception of how this. It's this tall building. Of course, they cannot reach physically into heaven.
他们这是一个，就是说他们这个一个设计概念。当然了，他们在真正建造的过程中，不太可能去真正的通天。
So why do they build a tower?
为什么他们想要建造一座塔呢？
The first thing is because they want to unite it together to rebel against God.
那第一件事情呢，他们就是想要聚集到一起，然后并且是反叛神。
God wants them to scatter throughout the world, but they don't want to do that. They want to be united together.
上帝要他们遍满地面，但是他们想要联合在一起。
The second motive is they want to show pride into this big accomplishment, build this huge building,
他们也想通过然后达成一个就是完成这样的一个重大的壮举来显示他们自己的骄傲。
Not only a building, but such a tall building that cause them to have pride in their accomplishment.
并且是一座可以通天的塔，可以显示他们的这个有多么的骄傲。
Some of the Bible scholars said that another reason is they actually use us to worship idols.
那一些圣经学者呢，然后就是说这个塔有可能是用来祭拜偶像的。
So God has a very wise way to stop this project.
那上帝用了一个非常有智慧的方式，然后去阻止他们的这个计划。
We can, as we human, we say, God, we're going to send fire and flood and just wipe them out. That's one way to stop this project.
那然后从我们人的角度来讲，我们觉得神呢可以从天降火下来，然后将他们所建造的这座塔呢毁灭。
But God has a much wiser solution.
但是上帝呢用了一个更有智慧的一个计划。
God actually came down on earth.
神呢，然后他是走下来，然后去看。
He confused the language.
他变乱他们的语言。
So that caused them to not able to continue building this tower.
就使得他们没有办法继续，然后去建造这座塔。
So and that forced them, because they speak different language, they form different groups and they scatter throughout the world.
那因为他们开始说不同的语言，没有办法理解彼此，然后所以呢，他们就开始分散到各地去。
So for people that struggle to learn foreign language, you can thank these people that caused you this problem of trying to learn foreign language.
那你可以，然后我们如果当你学一个外语的时候，可能你要感谢，然后这个事件。
So this is the beginning of a formation of nations.
这就是然后国家形成的，然后起初一个起始点。
Yeah, before this time, there's no concept of nation.
在这个事件之前呢，是没有这个国度的，然后这个概念。
Because nation is formed because people start having different language and they develop different culture and they go to different places, so that become nations.
那国家形成呢，是因为他们有了不同的语言，形成了不同的文化，然后这样呢，他们慢慢然后形成了各种的国家。
But later on, we'll see how Satan will try to unite the world back together to rebel against God.
那过后呢，我们可以看到，然后撒旦，然后在末世，然后有一个就是计划，就是要联合各个国家，然后来一起对抗上帝。
The next major event, historical event, is about Israel.
第二个然后历史事件呢，就是关于以色列的。
Israel is a special nation chosen by God.
以色列是神所拣选的一个非常特别的国度。
God called one person Abraham, and from him his sons Isaac, Jacob, and his 12 sons become the nation of Israel.
那神呼召了一个人亚伯拉罕，从他的一个人，那还有他的儿子，然后以撒、孙子雅各和雅各的12个儿子，从而生出一个民族以色列国。
So God gave him a promised land and for the descendant to live.
神给他们了一个应许之地，然后给他们的后裔来居住的。
So they settle in promised land, but because of disobedience, God caused them to scatter throughout the world.
但是呢，因为他们的不顺服，所以上帝呢就把他们分散到世界各地去了。
In AD 70, the Roman came, destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed the temple. So all the Jewish people scattered from that point scattered all over the world.
那犹太人在主后第70年，犹太人就因为罗马，然后毁灭了耶路撒冷圣城，然后呢，犹太人就分散到世界各地。
But God made a promise that one day they'll be regathered back into the promised land.
但是上帝承诺有一天他会将他们带回到这个应许之地。
So one of the greatest miracles in history is the reestablishment of Israel in May 14, 1948.
48年5月14日。
Yeah, some people call this the biggest miracle in 20th century.
一些人说这是20世纪最大的神迹。
Never in history a people that scattered throughout the world for 2,000 years able to regather to form their own nation.
那在这个历史上，然后从来没有一个国家可以分散了2000年以后再一次重新建立国。
Not only that, they retained their language, culture, and their religion.
并且然后他们保留了他们自己的语言，然后文化和信仰。
Just looking at Chinese that live in America.
我们可以看看，然后就是说住在美国的中国人。
What I see that most of the second generation are hardly speak any Chinese.
那我可以看到很多第2代的中国移民都已经不再说中文了。
Plus, from what I see is, from the relative and friends I know, more than half the people I know, they start marrying different race.
那我所认识的人中呢，有超过1半的人都嫁给了不同的，然后这个国家的人。
Including my son, his wife is white American.
那包括我的儿子，他的妻子呢是然后美国白人。
Yeah, she's a second grade teacher.
他是2年级的老师。
Yeah, she told me the first day she went to school, the students are very excited to see a new teacher called Mrs. Kwan.
他说，然后他的这个学生呢，然后第1天，然后见到他的时候，他们非常高兴，因为这是从来第1次，然后有一个老师，他们名字叫 Mr. Kwan。Mrs. Kwan。Mrs. Kwan。
But when my daughter-in-law came in, they saw a blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady.
我的这个儿媳妇呢，她是然后金发，然后那个金发碧眼。
So all the students were shocked.
所有的学生都很惊喜。
So from what I see, it's for the Chinese American, after 3 generations, I think we'll lose complete Chinese heritage.
那我相信，然后如果是到了第3代移民，基本上就是已经丢失了他所有的，然后这个过去的这个信仰文化。
So I don't know how God can all the Jewish people can maintain their heritage for 2,000 years. That's unthinkable.
那这个犹太人能够在这个2000年之中呢，仍然保留着他们的信仰文化，这个我觉得这是也很难想象。
So now we're finished with the historic. So we're jumping back to the future event.
那我们刚刚看了，然后就是说过去的事件，然后现在我们要看向然后这个未来的这事件。
One major event in the world in the future is called Jesus will coming back to this earth is the next major event.
那在就是将来呢，有一个最大的事件呢，就是主耶稣将再一次回到这个地上。
Yeah, he's going to rule this earth as Lord of Lords, King of Kings.
他将会以万王之王、万主之主的这样的一个身份回到地上，并且做王，在地上做王。
Yeah, he will rule 1,000 years in Jerusalem.
他会在耶路撒冷，然后统治全地1000年。
Yeah, this is we call the millennium reign of Christ.
这段时间我们称它为叫基督掌权的千禧年。
This is some Christians are not too clear about this, but this is a real 1,000 years. It's not some symbolic thing. It's a real 1,000 years.
那这个有一些人可能不是特别然后熟悉这个事件，但是呢，这个1000年呢是说确实的，他主耶稣要掌权1000年。
Because in Revelation it states this 1,000 years 6 times, so it's for real.
所以因为在启示录里面记录这个1000年呢，是已经记录了6次。
And after this period, that will be the new heaven and earth.
那1000年之后呢，就会是新天新地。
So this is what's described in Revelation the end of the book, end of the Bible, Revelation chapter 21 and 22.
这是在启示录最后2章21章和22章所记录的。
So this 1,000 year, one of the good thing is Satan will be. It's many good things, but one of the good things is Satan will be bound for 1,000 years.
那在这1000年里呢，会有很多好的事情，但是有一件最好的事情呢是，撒旦会被捆绑1000年。
Yeah, he will not be able to deceive the nations anymore.
撒旦就不能够再欺骗这个世界了。
The curse on the earth will be lifted.
那对这个地的咒诅会被挪去。
The animals will be live peacefully with each other.
那动物之间呢会和平共处。
Yeah, this is described in Micah.
这个在弥迦书里面有记载。
This is a picture of the. In Micah, they said the wolf and the sheep will lie peacefully together.
那在弥迦书里面记录了，它是说，动物之间，然后狮子和牛之间，然后和平共处。
So not only that, but also the lion and cattle also live peacefully together.
狮子和牛之间，然后是和平共处。
So and people have a much longer life.
那人的寿命会更长。
Bible said, if a youth die when he's 100 years old, that's a tragedy.
那圣经里面讲呢，如果一个人他活到100岁，如果他死掉的话，这是一个悲剧，因为100岁，然后仍然被看作是一个年轻人。
The nation will live peacefully, and there'll be no more wars.
那国家之间呢也会和平共处，然后不再有战争。
And Israel will be the most faithful nation in the world.
那以色列会成为然后最受人喜爱的这样的一个国家。
So this is God's plan, but now we go to Satan's opposition to this plan.
那这是上帝的计划，那我们现在看看撒旦然后敌对神的计划。
So Satan knows that. Actually, Satan knows a lot more about the Bible than we do.
那实际上呢，撒旦对圣经的了解是比我们更多的。
Yeah, he knows that Messiah, Jesus Christ, was born from the Jewish race.
那他知道主耶稣是要从这个犹太人中然后出来。
So his first plan is to prevent Jesus from being born.
那他第一个计划呢是要阻止然后主耶稣的出生。
But he failed, and after that, he wanted to persecute the Jewish faith, Jewish race, so that prevent Jesus from coming back.
那但是他的撒旦的计划失败了，所以他的第二个计划呢，就是要阻止然后主耶稣基督再来。
So that throughout history, we see a lot of Satan's opposition.
那在这个过去历史事件中，我们可以看到很多这个撒旦的然后敌对的计划。
So when the Israelites ready to cross the Red Sea, Pharaoh sent his army to try to wipe out the Israelites.
当我们看这个历史的时候，当时犹太人然后从埃及出来，那神把红海开让他们过去，但是法老呢追赶他们，想要把他们就是赶尽杀绝。
But God parted the Red Sea, let the Israelites go through and completely drown out the army from Pharaoh.
但是呢，神将红海开，使以色列人平安的渡过去。但是呢，却用这个红海，然后把埃及的军兵全都淹死了。
In New Testament, when after Jesus born, the Magi followed the star and came to Jerusalem.
在新约里呢，然后这个东方的博士跟随着一个星星，然后来到了这个伯利恒。
When King Herod found out Messiah is born in Bethlehem, he came out with an evil plan.
那当希律王发现弥赛亚会出生在伯利恒的时候，他就有一个邪恶的计划在他心里面。
But the angel warned Joseph and Mary to escape to take the baby Jesus infant to Egypt.
但是呢，天使警告了约瑟和玛利亚，让他们带着这个 baby 的婴孩的主耶稣，然后去到这个埃及躲避。
But Herod didn't want to take a chance. He gave an order to kill all the male babies in Bethlehem. That's 2 years and younger.
但是呢，希律然后命令杀掉所有伯利恒2岁以下的男婴。
Coming to the current history now.
那来到这个现代的现代历史。
During World War II, Hitler secretly killed 6 million Jews in concentration camps.
在第2次世界大战，希特勒杀了600万犹太人在集中营里面。
It's very hard for us to comprehend why he committed this great evil act.
我们很难理解为什么希特勒然后要这么仇恨犹太人。
At that time, Germany is fighting 2 wars in the west side and the east side.
那在那个时候呢，德国是2线作战，东线和西线。
But he's put a lot of military resource to transport this Jewish to the concentration camps and kill them.
但是呢，他也花了很多的军事力量，然后抓了这些所有的犹太人，把他们放到集中营里，并且杀害他们。
And some historians said Hitler actually has a history of getting this occult religion.
但是有历史学家说呢，说希特勒，然后他仇恨犹太人，他是有这个有原因的，有文化的原因。
So I can see why Hitler developed such a deep hatred for the Jewish people.
那我们可以看到，然后这个为什么希特勒然后这么仇恨这个以色列民族？
The next event is when after Israel is established to be a sovereign nation on May 14. May 14, 1948.
1948年，但是就是说3年之后呢，2次大战德国失败之后，3年之后以色列然后就在1948年5月14号复国了。
The very next day, 6 Arab nations attacked Israel together from north, south, and east.
但是在他这个以色列独立的第2天呢，就有6个阿拉伯国家带着大量的军队，然后从各个方向来攻击以色列。
Yeah, this is a picture of the army coming from 3 different directions.
那这个张图片呢，然后就描述了这个敌对这个以色列的这个势力从3个方向来攻击他们。
At that time, the land of Israel is smaller than what it is today.
那在那个时候呢，以色列这个土地是要比现在还要小的。
They don't have an army established yet.
而且呢，他们那个时候没有军队。
But God miraculously preserved the nation, and Israel was able to repel the attack.
但是每一次呢，神都保守以色列，并且以色列可以打败这些然后敌国。
But throughout history, we see there's more wars. The Arab nation keep attacking Israel.
但是呢，阿拉伯国家呢还是持续不断的攻击以色列。
But interesting thing is, every time they attack, Israel gain more land and get stronger.
那很有意思的事情呢，就是每一次然后以色列打败这个敌国之后呢，他们的土地都会变得越多增加了。
So they realize this is not working. So now they use terrorists to harass Israel.
这些敌国呢，然后这些阿拉伯国家发现这个方式呢行不通了，所以呢，现在他们开始使用恐怖袭击的方式来攻击以色列。
So another plan for Satan is what we call one established and one world government.
另一个撒旦的计划呢，就是要建成一个政府统治下的然后这样的一个世界。
The purpose is to persecute this one world government will persecute the Jews and Christians.
那他这个计划呢，就是一个世界的这个计划，就是为了要迫害基督徒和以色列人。
The ultimate purpose is to control Jerusalem, so the Messiah cannot come back to Jerusalem and rule.
他的最终的目的呢，是要控制耶路撒冷，这样主耶稣就没有办法，然后再回到这个地上。
So throughout history, there's a lot of since Tower of Babel, there's a lot of satanic inspired, we call the secret societies.
那从巴比伦事件，然后到后来很多的这个历史上的事件，我们可以看到，就是说很多有些秘密的，我们不能够明白的这个事件，然后发生。
But they really gained power after World War II.
但是呢，在这个世界二战之后呢，它这个势力有一些势力更强大了。
But they are very powerful organizations and powerful individuals, very rich, and they have deep influence throughout the world.
那在这个他们有一些很有权势的组织，或者是有权势、有钱的人，他们正在形成一个力量，并且对这个世界也有很多的这个影响力。
Even some of the prime minister in Europe and some of the U.S. president belong to this kind of organization.
甚至呢，在欧洲的一些领导人和美国的一些领导人也是在这样的一个组织之内。
We'll see an example of how much influence they have.
那我们回头看一下，然后他们有多大的这个影响力。
On December 21st last year, the United Nations General Assembly have a vote.
那在2017年，就是去年的12月21日，联合国聚集了他的这个国家，然后来投票。
The vote is to vote against the U.S. to move the embassy to Jerusalem.
他们要投票，然后反对美国将大使馆迁到耶路撒冷。
So the result is kind of interesting.
那这个投票的结果，然后也很有意思。
This is the result.
这是这个投票的结果。
It's 120 country for means against the move. 9 nations is for this, and 35 abstain.
那投票的结果呢是128票，然后是反对美国将大使馆迁到耶路撒冷，有9票是赞成，然后35票弃权。
Of this 9 nations that for the move, one is of course Israel and United States.
那当然了，这个9票赞成票里面9票，然后赞成票里面呢，有以色列、美国、以色列。
And followed by Guatemala and Honduras.
危地马拉和洪都拉斯。
And there's 5 more nations. They're so small that it's a little tiny nation in the Pacific. Nobody even know about them.
那还有5个太平洋的小国，我们甚至都不晓得他们叫什么名字。
So you're seeing the U.S. and Israel basically stand alone in the world against everybody against.
那基本上我们可以看到，美国和以色列是在这个事情上是孤军奋战。
We know that Satan knows that his time is coming to the end.
那撒旦知道的，他的时间快到了。
Yeah, because at the end he'll be bound for 1,000 years.
因为时间到了之后呢，他就会被捆绑1000年。
There's an old Chinese saying that corner a dog in the dead end street and it will turn and bite.
中国有一句话叫把一只狗逼到死胡同，那它呢就会转过来咬人。
So he steps on it. He had limit times. He had to do some drastic things before the end.
那这就是撒旦现在在做的事情，因为他知道他时间不多了，所以他要抓紧时间，然后做他的事情。
I think that's one reason why things are so intense in this world.
那这也是，然后我觉得这也是一个，就是说这个世界为什么现在局势越来越紧张的这个一个原因。
So now that we understand this big picture, but as Christians, we also have not only to understand, but there's action we need to take.
那当我们理解了，然后这个世界，然后这个局势，并且知道了这背后的属灵的原因，但是呢，作为基督徒，我们要做一些什么呢？
That's a spiritual battle. The most important thing is prayer.
那对这个属灵征战呢，最重要的呢，就是要祷告。
And also, we are also remember we call it dual citizens. We are a citizen of heaven, God's kingdom, and also a citizen of the world.
作为那个基督徒呢，我们实际上是有双重国籍的。那首先呢，我们是主耶稣天上国度的这个子民，然后呢，我们圣经劝诫我们呢是要为这个所有执政的掌权的祷告。
When we say all, that means start from the top, from the president on down to the school board.
那我们说所有呢，就是说从在上的，从总统一直到我们在学校的这些委员会。
The reason I brought up school board is I'll explain later why we have to pray for the school board.
那我提到，然后这个学校委员会，然后过后呢，我会说为什么我会提到这个学校的这个事情。
So Timothy says to have prayer, intercession, and thanksgiving for all the people, for kings and those in authority.
那这个提摩太全书也是劝诫我们，要为万人恳求祷告，代求助谢，为一切君王和一切在位的也当如此。
So come to a practical point. How do we pray for this leader?
那这个到实际，然后如何操练呢？然后我们如何为这些领导人祷告？
But we have to use God give us wisdom to how to pray.
那我们需要上帝神赐给我们智慧，然后如何祷告。
So I would pray, if it's a good leader, I would pray for protection and blessing for the leader.
那至于我呢，如果是一个好的领导人，然后呢，我会为他求祝福，求神的保护。
But if it's a bad leader or leader that have policy that's harmful to God's kingdom,
但是如果对一个糟糕的领导人，他支持他会出一些政策，然后对神的国度有危害的话，
then I would pray for God to change his heart instead.
那我就会祷告求神改变他的心。
So, but that's also a specific prayer for Jerusalem.
但是有一个为耶路撒冷的一个特别的祷告。
Yeah, in Psalm 122, 6 to 7.
在诗篇122章6到7节。
To pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
那你们要为耶路撒冷求平安。
So there's a good reason why we should pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
我有一个这个为耶路撒冷祷告，然后有一个很好的原因。
Jerusalem is a special place in God's heart.
在神的心中呢，耶路撒冷是有一个特殊的地位的。
Jesus died in Jerusalem, and he will come back and reign in Jerusalem.
那主耶稣是死在耶路撒冷，但是当他再来的时候，重新统治的时候，也是在耶路撒冷。
When Jesus is ascending to heaven, the disciples is looking up in heaven when Jesus is ascending up.
当主耶稣升天的时候呢，他的门徒看着他如何升天。
The two angels came to the disciple that Jesus will come, the same Jesus will come back the same way as they went up.
那当时有两个天使对他的门徒说：“你们看见主耶稣如何升上天去，然后主耶稣也要如何降到这地上来。”
The third point is God promised Abraham that I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you.
那还有一个应许呢，就是神给亚伯拉罕，就是祝福你的，我也会祝福他；咒诅你的，我会咒诅他。
So this is an everlasting promise that is still valid today.
这是一个永恒的应许，然后今天呢也是同样适用的。
So another action that we take as a citizen is to take another action.
那作为公民的这地上的公民呢，我们也还可以，然后有另外一个就是特权。
One is to vote.
那其中一个呢就是去投票。
Because we are citizens of this country,
因为我们是这个国家的公民。
voting is a privilege for the citizen.
那对于这个投票呢，是对公民来说是一个特权。
Throughout history, voting is very new. It's really basically started by the U.S. when U.S. became a country, and where people have a right to vote.
那在历史上呢，美国是第一个，然后给公民投票权的这样的一个国家。
Throughout history, people are ruled by kings, and there's no such thing as voting.
在投票这个出现之前呢，都是王然后统治一个国家，是没有投票这一说的。
Even now, many countries in the world, voting doesn't mean anything.
即便是现在呢，有很多国家投票也是没有任何的意义的。
There's either a dictatorship or just a one-party rule.
那要么就是这些国家呢，要么就是独裁者，然后再掌控，要么就是一党专制。
But thank God, our vote in the United States it still counts.
那但是非常感谢神，就是说，在美国，然后投票，然后对我们来说，然后依然是很有效的一个手段。
So I remember another old saying that the only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
那有一句老话讲叫“好人不做事情，对恶人来说就是胜利了。”
It's not only true for all people, but even more true for Christians.
那对于可能很多人来说，可能这个不是一个事实，但是对基督徒来说就是一个事实。
Because as a Christian, we want to look for the interests of God's kingdom first.
因为作为基督徒，我们要就是为神的国度然后求利益。
Yeah, we don't want to take no action and let evil have influence in this world.
那我们不想要就是说什么都不做，然后最后撒旦的就是邪恶势力就会影响我们。
So it's not easy to talk about how to vote.
那如何去投票，然后就是很难去就是讨论这个话题。
But God gave us the wisdom to make the right choice.
但是愿上帝赐给我们智慧，然后能够做出正确的这个选择。
But it's a little easier to talk about how not to vote.
但是如何谈论不投票，然后是可以的。
So first is always look after the interests of God's kingdom.
那首先呢，我们要去求神的国，然后而不是先求自己的益处。
Another one is we should not look after sometimes there's a lot of Asian on the ballot, and we have a tendency, oh, he's an Asian, let's vote for that person.
那作为亚洲人呢，可能我们在投票的时候会更想说，那这个人是亚洲人，那我就投票给他。
Yeah. Many years ago, there's a lady running for a statewide office in California.
那个一段时间以前呢，有一个女人，她是要争取要做这个加州的一个官员。
Yeah, she's Chinese.
她是中国人。
So I was talking to my relative, and he was very surprised to say that I'm not voting for this person.
那我跟我的这个亲戚，然后就谈论这个事情，然后他说，这个人他的是很反对，然后我们自己的，所以我不会投的这个人。
So he said, you don't have to think. A Chinese will vote for Chinese. You don't have to think.
那不要去想，然后中国人就投中国人。
But as a citizen, God's king, we need to use discernment to look for the interests of God's kingdom.
但是作为基督徒呢，我们要首先去为神的国去求益处。
So the next voting is November 6th. It's only 23 days from now.
那下一个投票日呢是11月6号，距离现在呢只有23天的时间。
So those are the citizens, we should go out and vote.
那作为如果是你是公民呢，然后我鼓励你去投票。
The last thing I talk about is to stand up for righteousness.
那最后我要讲的呢，就是说为正义而战。
So there's a lot of immoral. We have to stand up for the immoral policy from our government.
那我们要为这个一些然后不道德的然后一些政策，然后我们要站出来。
I want to give a good example. Our sister Jia Wenwei. We all know him as Jia Ayi.
那我要讲一个非常好的例子呢，就是我们的这个姐妹贾文薇，然后就是很多人都知道，我们叫她贾阿姨。
Yeah, she's very active in the English corner in Yobalanda.
那她是呢，在这个尤巴琳达这个社区里面呢是很活跃的。
Now it's a proposal in Yobalanda School that it's a very harmful policy concerning the bad sexual education for children.
那有一个在这个尤巴琳达社区呢，有一个提议，这个提议呢，但是它是一个非常糟糕的这个性教育计划。
Brother Hugh just brought out in Sunday school that he's in the same situation. His son is in the Yobalinda School District.
那 Hugh 弟兄呢，然后他今天也提到他的儿子呢，也是在尤巴琳达这个校区里面。
But Ja'a, you take more action than just. She actually first to encourage a lot of Chinese parents to attend the school board meeting.
那贾阿姨呢，她做了很多的事情。她首先呢，她会鼓励了很多的中国家长去参加这个学校的委员会。
Yeah, it's a lot very complicated issue, but translate all this issue into Chinese so the parents understand what's going on.
那这个问题呢，会涉及到很多的这个英文的文件，它呢就是把它所有的这个英文的文件都翻译成中文。
And quite a few parents actually attend the school board meeting to speak. They don't know enough English to speak, but they listen to all the argument that different people spoke.
那他呢这样的这些中国的家长呢，就可以去参加学校委员会的会议，然后知道就是说听取那些然后支持与反对的意见。
So in conclusion, we are living in a world of turmoil.
那这个我们我的讲章的这个结论呢，就是我们这个世界是生活在现在这个世界是在混乱之中。
So for many people, it's very perplexing.
那对于很多人来说，然后都是就是说很难去理解。
But so now that we understand there's two major struggles going on in the spiritual world.
但是我们知道，然后我们就是说，然后有两方面，然后在这个属灵征战上面，然后有两个主要的方面。
One is the forces of the one world government, forces that advocate one world government against the nation that want to be sovereign and not influenced by the one world government.
那一个征战呢，就是说撒旦的一个政府统治的这个力量。和其他想要维持各自主权国家的这样的一个冲突。
The second conflict is the forces want to destroy Israel, and the forces that want to preserve Israel.
那第二个这个征战的这个主要方向呢，就是说毁灭以色列的力量和保护以色列的力量之间的征战。
So we understand clearly what God's plan is in the past and future.
那我们已经非常理解了，然后就是说，上帝在过去和将来对这个世界的国家的计划。
We'll gain a much better understanding of what's happening in this world.
那我们会对这个在这个国家上、这个地上，然后发生的很多事情，然后会更好的理解。
So we should be diligent in our prayers, especially for our leaders.
那我们应该在祷告上更加的勤奋，尤其是为这些领导。
May God give us peace in this turbulent time.
愿神赐给我们在这个吵闹的时代里呢，赐给我们平安。
Give us wisdom and discernment to be good citizens.
那愿神赐给我们智慧和洞察力，做一个神国度的好子民。
Both as a citizen of God's kingdom, a citizen of this world.
神国度的好子民，也是这地上的国度的好。